Hello and welcome, Essex County College family. This is episode 2 of Staff Spotlight. Now, you may know our college motto is students first, and today's guest has been putting students first her entire career at Essex County College, no matter what department she's been in. Sometimes higher education can be a battleground, and today's guest will fight head to head for students. Now, she dresses professional and acts unbelievably professional, but she is a warrior for our students, and she will fight for them and stick up for them and enhance their experience here at our college. And we're very pleased to have her on the show today. Please welcome Dean Patricia Slade. Dean, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm wonderful, Mr. Ott. How are you? I'm so happy to see you today.
Happy to see you as well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. We wanted to get your history at Essex County College today. So we're going to start off with, what were you doing before you came to Essex County College?
Wow. You want me to really go back into my memory bank. Before I came to Essex, I was the director of student programs at the YWCA of Essex and West Hudson, which was located in Orange, New Jersey. It was a place that I grew up. I grew up in a Y. I grew up, I learned how to swim there. I was actually on the board of directors there. I was the youngest member of the board of directors of the YWCA when I was 13 years old. So when I received the opportunity to go and work there when I got out of college, it was great. It was great. I did the summer resident program at Camp Lenalock, and I did programming for students. It was the youth program director.
Okay, wow. So you've been helping students long before you came to Essex County College. It seems like your whole life, pretty much.
Pretty much, yes. Pretty much. I've been active in trying to enhance the lives of young people. Back there at the Y, we were talking about really, really young people. And so now at Essex County College, it's kind of progressed that way.
Excellent. What year did you come to Essex County College when you began working here?
September 26, 1986 was my first day.
Wow, you know the day, so it must have been exciting to start something new at that point, huh?
Oh yes, oh yes. I started out in the physical education building under the director, Mr. Knight. So I've worked with Adrian Morse, who is now the administrative assistant in athletics. For that long, Adrian was a work study student at that time. So we've kind of had our paths together for now we're on 32, 33 years. I'll never forget that date, September 26, 1986, never.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of changes in the building, a lot of changes in the athletic program. So it's been rewarding, absolutely. And I still communicate with, and I don't think it's a problem mentioning her name, Vincell Watson. Vincell Watson was a basketball player when I first came to Essex. She was one of the youngest players. She was 16 years old coming out of Philadelphia. And still to today, Vincell and I still communicate, just to know how each other is doing. She comes down to the school sometimes. She's met all the staff, so that keeps me connected with my past. When I have students who are still interested in what's going on at the institution, I always send her. When our athletic teams are doing well, she follows them where she can, online. But, it's just to keep that interest and that connection. And it makes me feel good.
Excellent. So real quick, you first worked in athletics technically or PEB?
Well, I was the gymnasium manager for the physical education building.
Okay.
And at that time there was one director, and he was the director of athletics in PEB. It was a couple years after that, I did serve as the assistant basketball coach, women's basketball coach, for I think 1 or 2 1 or 2 seasons. So I guess I kind of worked for both. But when you're a gym rat, you're a gym rat. You do whatever you have to do in the physical education building, whether it's monitoring the fitness center, selling hot dogs in the concession stand, sweeping the gym floor in between games, climbing up the bleachers to retrieve a volleyball during intramurals. When you're a gym rat, you just do anything that's necessary.
Dean Slade's versatility is unmatched in the business, people, okay? Okay, so you began in the physical education building in the 80s. My question to you is, how did you come across finding the job at Essex County College? Or did someone bring you here, or did you see a job listing somewhere? How did you end up here?
It's an interesting story. I used to play tennis in Orange, and one of my tennis mates I was meeting somewhere, and the director of the PEB happened to be there at that time. So, and I was on my way to, either on my way or coming from an interview down at the Gateway Center. So I had my interview clothes on and my resume and everything in the car. So I'm talking to one of my tennis mates, and I said, I'm interested in changing positions. I'm trying to get another job from the Y, after the Y. So the director, and I'll say Mr. Knight, he was sitting right there. So he says, well, what do you do? And I told him what I did. He says, well, give me your resume. I went out to my car and I got my resume. And I guess happened to be at that time, there was the gymnasium manager position was available. So I interviewed for it and I got it. So it just happened to be God's blessing at that date that I happened to walk into that place, Mr. Knight sitting there, position available. I was qualified. That's 33 years ago.
What a story. That is unbelievable. That's a good note for all of our students watching. Remember, people, there are greater forces at work at all times, no matter what you believe. So I would keep a copy of your resume in the car at all times. You never know. You never know who you're going to meet in your travels that can help you along your journey and help enhance your career and your vision.
You're absolutely right. And the other added part to that is you never know who is watching you, how you're carrying yourself, who talks about you outside of you being present there. Because if those two individuals hadn't had or if that one individual didn't have a good perception of me or an opinion of me, I wouldn't have gotten that job. No matter what my resume said, or no matter how appropriate I looked at the time, there was still going to be a conversation between those two folks about me that I wasn't going to be present for. So it's how you always have to think about how people are perceiving you and how you want to be perceived in different environments, because we're not always the same in all places, if that makes any sense. But so that, yes, as a lesson for students, always be conscious about how you present yourself, because you never know where that's going to go.
Absolutely. So after the physical education building, what was your next move? What was your next departmental move at Essex?
I went to financial aid. I became a financial aid officer. Very different environment, a lot of regulations, very strict in how you did things. It was a learning experience, but then again, when I went to financial aid, I was working under another phenomenal director, Mildred Kofer. And from her, I learned so much about, of course, financial aid, but I also learned about being more present in what I was doing and where I wanted to go. I guess in the physical education building, if you're in the gym, it's a little bit more loose because things come at you very differently. But when I got to financial aid, I had to kind of shift and become a little bit more structured. And also what I did impacted a lot more people. I could see my work through my students a little bit differently. I don't want to say more, but a little bit differently because I impacted them financially. And so that kind of was a different shift. And I don't exactly remember the year I went to financial aid. It was in the 90s. It was in the 90s. And I spent, I guess about 10 years there. I went from the financial aid officer, and I left there as the assistant director of financial aid. I learned a lot. As I said, I worked under another great director, great people in that department, and rewarding also, very rewarding.
Absolutely. I bet it was rewarding. Financial aid is probably one of our most highest trafficked areas in the institution. A lot of our students are financial aid students, and I'm sure that you interacted and changed a lot of their lives during your time in that department. It's very important. I'm sure they're very grateful to have had the opportunity.
And if I could just add also, I kind of became an advocate for the financial aid office because yes, it is a very highly, it's an office that has a high traffic level, but it also gets a lot of bad press. Financial aid is very stressful. It's a very stressful job. The regulations give you very little room to sometimes help students. Also, it can be very emotional because some of our students have very difficult stories. They have very difficult financial situations, personal situations. And I say it's difficult sometimes because you want to be able to help them so badly, but the regs say, I cannot or you cannot do this. So it becomes emotional. And then, sometimes all of our students don't always read everything that we send them and come when we tell them to come and follow deadlines. So the lines become very long and, we're back and forth with paperwork. And if you're outside of this financial aid world, you may not understand that. We can be truthful here. There's been a times where, the finger pointing has always been at financial aid for not being efficient. But when you're inside of it, you can see how that happens. It's it's a very difficult world to be in. So I just say, be careful how you judge a department until you've worked there.
I would absolutely say amen to that. Yeah, remember, students, we're doing our best to help you in whichever way we can. And it can get stressful when there's a couple dozen of us in one department and a couple thousand of you. So I know you have your own struggles going on, but try to keep that in mind. We are here to put you first, all of you first. That's the thing. We're putting students first. We're putting you all first. So it can be challenging at times.
Yes.
All right, so you were in the financial aid department then in the 90s, and you were there for about 10 years. What department did you move to after financial aid?
I went to student life and activities.
And that is the department that most students probably know you the best from because you've been assisting them for many, many years from the vehicle of student life and activities. How did your job change when you moved to that department, and how did you serve our students then?
My job changed almost a little bit back to where I was when I first came in the PEB building. I became more of a program developer and implementer, addressing the extracurricular needs of the student. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that my job was to make sure that I develop programs that touch the students socially, culturally, civically, emotionally, and with fun. And I had predecessors who had done it very well. So I had a good, how do I say, a good directions in which to go. And then I had an opportunity to add my own little spices to it. I tell everyone my best story about when my first welcome back picnic in student life. We're outside by the grounds. The barbecue is flowing, the smoke, the music, the students are everywhere, and I'm standing on kind of like that ledge in between the two buildings. And somebody asked, well, how do you like being in student life now? And I turned and I said, it beats the hell out of financial aid. Because I was outside, I was enjoying the kids, we were having fun, and I was still impacting them. And I didn't have all of those regs boxing me in to be able to help the students. It's been a great ride. That has been a great ride there. Student life, and I've met yourself, Chinasa before you, Miss Rice. Now we have Mr. Graham, Miss Hunt. And the thing about it now in student life, the three people who are in the building with me, all are Essex students, former Essex students or Essex graduates. So to have them come together to develop programs is exciting, because you see how they have, how do you say, they've taken their initial need for Essex as a student and now made it their priority to provide for others. And that's a wonderful thing to watch happen. So, it's been a great, student life has been really good.
I know from my own experience that student life barbecues are probably some of the best days to be on campus, whether you're an employee or a student. Everybody's outside. It's an unbelievably unifying event. I've seen Dean Slade out there. She is a combination of a mom, the mayor, and a dean all at one time. It's very inspiring. I try to steal as many of Dean Slade's moves as I can over the years and put them in my tool belt as well. Okay, she's dealt with students for a very, very long time. She's one of the strongest student advocates that we have on the campus. You also get to play judge once in a while. Is that correct?
Student code of conduct. Yes, I do. And that's also sometimes difficult, but also when you see students understand how their actions impact others and impact themselves, and then when the light bulb goes off that says, when you ask the question, if you ask the question, what would you do the next time? And you get that answer that says, I would think before I act, or I would not say that. I do not want to sit in this seat here before you, this committee. When you get those kind of answers that say within a 20-minute session, a student has realized I can make a change in myself to make my life better, then I think we've done a good job. Student Code of Conduct Committee is a great committee. It's made up of students, administrators, and faculty. The people who serve on the committee also learn from students. We try to rotate the members, because I think it's important that faculty and staff see students in different places than just their typical environment. What do I mean by that? I want to be able to interact with students not just from the student life and development perspective. I want to be able to interact with them also in their academic setting, in their emotional setting, so that you get an idea of how they live outside of you. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if I only look at students when they come into the Dasher Center, I'm missing something. I have to be able to go and be where they are all the time, or as many situations as I can. And then that helps me decide better how to serve them.
Absolutely. You know, you're probably the best candidate for student code of conduct because you, during your work in student life and activities, basically on the front lines of education, you've been collecting empathy towards our students and compassion from hearing their stories and basically counseling them through their experience here. So who better than that to sit on the, you know, student code of conduct and be able to adjudicate when any matters come up between students, because you have that ultimate understanding of what they're going through. And like you said, not just from a student life perspective, you know them outside, you know them from academics, you know them from financial aid, you know them from PEB, you know, you've been around our institution, so you're a well-rounded professional when it comes to interpreting our students and the challenges and situations that they may be going through. It might not always be throw the hammer at them, throw the book at them. Sometimes it's let's understand where they're coming from and how they ended up where we are today, and how can we help them? How can we help move them along their own personal timeline to get them where they need to be?
It's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Okay, so what is your current title now at the college?
Currently, I am the Associate Dean of Student Life and Development.
Okay,
So if I get to add an E on that title, it would actually be Slade. Right now, it's just SLAD. I need an E to make it Slade.
unbelievable. I love it.
I don't know what I'm gonna make that E, but that's my title, Associate Dean of Student Life and Development.
So that sounds like a combination title, because it sounds like you're saying student life and activities, which you do preside over as well, but student life and development, is that like a combo of multiple departments, or can you explain that?
When they added development is when they put student development and counseling under me. Initially, I came in as the Director of Student Life and Activities. I was promoted to Assistant Dean of Student Life and Activities when I received athletic department. Then when they added student development and counseling, that's when they changed it to Associate Dean of Student Life and Development. So now I have 3 areas that I am responsible for.
That is a giant umbrella of responsibility you have here at the college. We appreciate you.
Yes, I was told I have quite a bit of real estate,
Yep.
which includes the Dasher Student Center and the Physical Education Building, which houses athletics and PEB.
What would be the best piece of advice that you have for incoming Essex students, present Essex students, anybody that's under our house right now? What is the best piece of advice that you have for our students?
I appreciate the question, Mr. Ott. What is my best advice for a student? And I think my best advice for a student is to take advantage of the time that you have here at Essex County College. Advantage of the time, not only in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. There's a multitude of experiences that you can develop through leadership, through social programs, through a multitude of extracurricular activities. But that requires you to be conscious of using your time wisely. Of course, you want to come to class, you want to be prepared, you want to do well in your classes. And that also, and I'll just go from there very quickly, find a professor that you can connect to that will help you inside the class and also outside of the class. But what I was saying before is that use your time wisely within your classroom, but also find other things to do that will develop you as a whole student. And that is one of our goals in student life and activities, is to develop the holistic student. You're socially conscious, your civic consciousness, your community service consciousness. So use the time that you have for these 2 or 3 years that you're going to be with us. Use it wisely to gain all of these experiences that will make you a better person moving forward. That's the only way we're going to make change, is that individually we absorb all of the knowledge and goodness and then send it out into the world. My best advice is to use your time wisely, because it's very short and it's up to you to take advantage of it.
Supreme words of wisdom and love from the one and only Dean Patricia Slade. All right, we want to thank you all for joining us for episode 2 of the Staff Spotlight. We thank our special guest, Dean Slade, for coming on the show. We hope you and your family are doing well during this time, and we will see you next time. Take care.